Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and today I'm delighted to be joined by JJ Bull.
Hello.
Reuben Pinder.
Hola.
And Jack Pitt-Brooke.
Hello, Joe.
Also, Steve Hankey's here.
Hello!
Yeah, there he is. Okay, now, what did we talk about on today's episode? So much after a fascinating weekend. Manchester United won a, quote, fun and, quote, electrifying Manchester derby against City. Did they look like the Manchester United of old? Right, Steve? We discuss. Would the prospect of eternal damnation in the fiery pit of hell, I forgot we did this bit, make Premier League teams work harder to avoid defeat? Almost certainly yes. And something was cut from that section. Now, what's next? Why letting Bruno Fernandes cook, says Jack, gives you a delicious ball-playing brunch, right, Steve? Om nom nom. Did you want me to say that bit as well?
Yes.
Om nom nom. There you go. And for City, are we seeing the true fragility of this iteration of Pep Guardiola's side in this game? That wasn't funny at all. That was just normal writing.
Got to mix it up.
Yeah. Oh, the ring returns, and it has a name change to JJ's
The Rondo.
The Rondo.
Sounds Welsh, doesn't it?
It does. When you say like the Rondo.
Rondo.
The
Would you
Rondo
like to
Valley.
scramble up that rocky cliff face and play the Rombo? Or the Rombo? The Rombo? That's the Welsh Rambo, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
His name is John Rombo. And he killed a police officer in 1984.
I can't do the Welsh accent, but I really want to keep going with this bit.
Yeah, do it.
I can't do it.
Oh, you can't do it, really?
No, I can't.
It's up and down, it's bouncy. That's what you've got to do with Wales. It goes up and down.
Try saying a Welsh town name like Llandudno.
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 I know I can't do the Welsh accent. I really, really want to play with Rambo being Welsh and what he would do.
Well, he'd be singing in the valleys, wouldn't he? You know?
But in the jungle, as he's mowing down people.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, by John what did we call him originally?
Rombo.
By John Rombo 4, he would be mowing down people with a machine gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On top of a sheep.
The valleys of Wales would never have seen so much death, not since the Black Plague. Actually, I wonder if the valleys were relatively protected during the plague.
Probably.
Because it was...
the Black
It
Death,
would have been
though,
very
it's got
sparsely
everywhere.
populated.
Or how about
14th century.
what Rombo would do?
But do you mean the Black Death or do you mean the plague?
Are they not the same thing?
The Black
because-
Death is
So the
one
Black
thing,
Death is in
yeah.
the 14th century.
Right.
So that was like, I think it was, the Black Death is 14th century, then the plague was 17th century.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know they were separate.
Black
So
London
the-
one,
So
yeah.
you're like, Black
Yeah.
Plague isn't a thing.
Oh.
The Black Death is the plague.
I've invented it.
Yeah.
John Rombo invented it. It's his weapon.
What if rather than it's John Rambo is Welsh, it's just Rambo, but he's Welsh? What if it's like Rambo is in Wales and he's also Welsh? He's not in the jungle doing all the things that
Right.
Rambo does.
Well, but the thing is, like,
he's herding sheep.
Part of Rambo's backstory is that he's come back from. Is it from Vietnam or from Korea? From Vietnam. And he has post-traumatic stress disorder. So we'd have to be saying, where has John Rombo come back from to Wales, where he's returned with this PTSD? Is it Iraq?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
He was
it's
in
set
Iraq.
in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Steve Hankey is looking at me like we have to finish this bit now. Yeah? Is that right, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Well, later on, we'll plot the story.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Anyway, Crystal Palace. Ruben's got post-traumatic stress disorder from the weekend because Crystal Palace and the souring love story between the club and Oliver Glasner was where we turned in the second half of today's episode before we wade through the sea of booze emanating from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we glean that at the moment their ire is directed specifically at Thomas Frank. We discussed the tenability of his remaining Tottenham boss, and also we note that Seb is coming to join us on Wednesday/Thursday's episode because he's in town to watch the Tottenham Borussia Dortmund game. So if anything else happens with Thomas Frank, we'll be right on top of that. And then we have a nice discussion of the merits of David Moyes and his ability to make a delicious tactical cake. I don't recall that part of it.
There's baking cake recipe was discussed.
Was there a baking
Yeah.
thing?
Jack used cake ingredients as metaphor for a team balance.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did.
You clearly weren't paying attention.
I must have been thinking about icing, got distracted, And then we played Points of Bad, and that was the show. Anything else?
They drew first blood.
Where else to begin, of course, than in Manchester for the Derby, where, as Steve writes, Manchester is red. Very exciting. The Michael Carrick era at Manchester United got off to a heavenly start for the Red Devils as they sent their local rivals straight to hell with a 2-0 win. At Old Trafford, goals from Brian Mbeumo and Patrick Dorgu in the second half gave Manchester United a much-needed boost and struck another blow to Manchester City's title challenge. Lucky Arsenal. Lots of points dropped today. I kept hearing the statistic that the top 5 in the Premier League all dropped points and the bottom 5, none of them lost. Amazing.
I did hear that too.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Do you think if the penalty for losing was to be sent to hell, it would change the way teams approached their games?
Well, now Premier League managers would all say no. They'd say, my boys arrive every day, wanted to leave everything out there on the field.
And not go to hell.
But I think if the result was going to hell, I think there'd be some more dirty tactics involved.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I was just thinking more whether to be far more defensive,
right,
and more like Mourinho-ish.
Well, I think if the alternative is going to hell, then prison would be better. So if you had, this isn't good.
This has gone darker than I thought it would.
Of course, something immediately got cut.
2 minutes in.
2 minutes in. Now, Pep Guardiola's side. Now 7 points behind league leaders Arsenal. They were poor. They were terrible. We'll talk about them. But let's start with Manchester United, who put in the kind of performance that I think would make Ruben Amorim roll his eyes a little bit from wherever he was watching or not watching, JJ.
Yes, I think so. He would have set up in a different way. I have long thought, this is just a thing you do with Man United, you just set them up in a 4-2-3-1 and just let them do things. I sound a bit football man, but football hasn't really changed that much, surely. All the out-of-possession stuff has. A lot of games are really boring to watch. This was really fun.
Yeah.
Man United were fun to watch. Put fast wingers up top, out wide, little rotations, so you get Amad Diallo's moving from the wide area into going in behind. But basically, City are going to push up. There's going to be space in behind. They're going to lose the ball at some point. And you've got Bruno Fernandes who can ping these long balls. And so they're playing in behind really quick. It looked like the Man United of old. As in all the clips you see of the counter-attack goals, you can do that against a team that leaves space behind. So it's still going to be the same problems that they'll face when they play against teams who are blocking low, like every team's coming up against. So all the games are boring now. But this was electric. It was electrifying.
It was exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. Yeah, it just felt like something different and new. And I liked it when I know people will have gone hard on him, but when Gary Neville is so excited when they score that first goal, and he's like, "Yeah," because I think he's described it feeling like he's just so bored of always being talking about in podcasts after games, like, "Oh, the problems are here. Right. All of this is like that." But the fans were, I think, got behind that performance because that's what they want. They want to feel like you're going somewhere, not just waiting. It's not just long passes, lots of short connections. Yeah. Another thing I really enjoyed about it was I saw videos, people slagging off Carrick for reintroducing the rondos in training, but it's a nice little thing to do. And you saw little short passing sequences where they played little short rondos to get out of danger, just short back and forth passes. It was nothing like what you see under Amorim an awful lot, where someone's got the ball, they're all quite far apart from each other, and they launch it long, and someone's got to chase it, and it turns into nothing.
Why were people taking the mick out of the rondo being reintroduced?
Because it's like going back to the Man United DNA thing. But I mean, I know it's a bit of a meme, but I think it's a thing. Like there is a thing.
The DNA.
Yeah, there's like Real Madrid are Galactico players. So you need to bring in a manager like, I think, Carlo Ancelotti. You need someone who has the charisma to look after the sorts of players. I think Man United is kind of similar. You just have like the best players and you manage them, you give them a bit of freedom, a bit of structure, and do simple things like stop him from playing. Like you mark him, you get it in here. Obviously there's modern like pressing structures, and a lot of the way teams play now is all dependent on how you play out of possession and other things that have changed over time. But you play with like fast forward intent, you play with aggression, and you get that performance. The other thing I was thinking though, is that I remember seeing at the start of this season, I was like, oh, this is going to work with Amorim now, this is going to work. Because they put in a performance with the same sort of attitude. I think it was against Arsenal.
First game, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I see this now. Yeah. I see this. And then it started to fall away.
Yeah.
And I wonder what will happen when they come up against the teams who do sit in mid and low blocks and just don't let them get past.
I think that's the big question, Ruben, isn't it? Because whilst we said at the beginning maybe Ruben Amorim's eyes would roll, maybe they wouldn't, because Man United, not just under Ruben Amorim, but recently, maybe in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, have been pretty good against the bigger teams, all the way back to Ole Solskjaer.
Yeah, I mean, and Mourinho's team before that, they've all had decent records against City because of the way that Guardiola's team are always going to play. Like, this is, in a way, the perfect first game for Carrick because they're underdogs and they can play in that way that JJ's described, which the fans enjoy and the players kind of suit. But it's a very small sample size. And Carrick did kind of downplay the kind of euphoria that came from that win. Like, this is not always going to be like this. And they won't always have that emotion from the crowd, which instruct them to kind of ride off that wave. However, that being said, it did kind of make a mockery of how Ruben Amorim had previously used Bruno Fernandes and other players like Ahmad as a wing back and whatever. Like, he did a fine job in that role, but he's obviously an attacking player, not a wing back. And when you have Bruno Fernandes as a 10 with a 9 and 2 wingers either side of him, rather than one of the 3 attackers or way too deep as kind of like a 6/8, then you don't get the best out of him. And they got the best out of him against City because he was in the perfect position to launch those counter-attacks as they would have kind of...
They're built around him, kind of. Do you know Fernandes has sort of gone massively up in my... his reputation to me, because for a long time I've been like, oh God, this guy's always whinging at everyone, always moaning, always pinging it long. But I think this season, he seems to be doing like constant hard work. I think he seems to have stopped doing a lot of the whinging and moaning at other players and seems more like an actual... Like a Man United leader type player. Like, he just gets going, he wants to win, got the drive. Some of the passes he was pulling off are ridiculous.
My favourite one being his...
the first time...
The assist. Well, yeah, but also the assist for Mbeumo's goal at the end of that counter-attack. Because as all 4 of them are running in a 4v2, I'm not sure which way he's going to pass. Like, he's got Ahmad on his right, but then he'll probably have to shoot on his weak foot. And Mbeumo pulls off to the left. But Fernandes moves just for one step in the other direction, which brings Kusanov completely following him, which creates a lovely bit of space. And then he immediately passes it back to Mbeumo. And it's just that like slight bit of really clever thinking in the moment that made it like one of the best performances I've seen him play and United all season. But yeah, it's not going to be like this every week because the dynamic of the game and the expectation is going to be different.
That's one of the... If I was a Manchester United fan, which of course I'm not, but I would have been really frustrated by the way that Ruben Amorim used Bruno Fernandes, right? Because the one thing we know about Bruno Fernandes is if you give him space, if you play him as a 10, if you just get him the ball in good positions,
if you simply let him cook, Jack.
Exactly. If you let him cook, the guy is going to cook. Like, he will get you goals and assists and basically win you matches by himself. And yeah, I felt with Ruben Amorim, like Amorim was trying to force him to be a different player in a different system, and not only did that mean that their best player played a lot worse and won fewer games and did fewer good match-winning things, but also the system was bad. It's like it was such a lose-lose scenario. Like, not only are you making the whole team worse, but you're also making your best player worse.
I mean, I was thinking about this over the weekend a lot. It's not a very high thinking thing.
Highbrow.
What's wrong with my brain?
Highbrow. Is that what you're looking for?
I was doing like an improv like live thing yesterday, and like my brain had nothing. It was really weird. So I think that's a continuation.
Maybe
of the weekend.
Your brain is currently on low thinking mode.
I think it must be. I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, so I was like, to my point about Real Madrid and Man United and maybe like Galactico teams, stuff like that. So like, football is a game for the players, and there's other people who've made that kind of quote. I can't remember which one it was, but the football is played by the players, and they're the ones who decide things. And when you've got like what I think we've got now is a world in which the managers are becoming like the superstars and the star of it. So, you remember last week we were talking about the CEOs being the star.
Yeah.
So who cares about being the manager? You want to be the players.
Sure.
So now it's like the managers. People are like Rossignol like, I was always wanted to be a manager when I grew up.
Right.
Like, we'll be a player first. So now you've got managers being there. So rather than the individual players like Bruno Fernandes being the star of Man United, Amorim was kind of making it the system, because then the team works together, comrade, and that way together we are stronger.
Yeah.
But you've got great players, you don't need to do that. And it's almost like some teams, like when you're not a very good team, the system probably has to be the star because it makes everyone better within it as a unit. But when you eventually climb up the ladder of football by doing the systems thing, then you get to a point where you can track players who don't need to be within the system, and you can give them the freedom.
Yeah.
But eventually that will collapse, and you need to then build a system around it.
This is the thing. I feel as though I need to speak on behalf of the ghost of John McKenzie, who's not here. I think he would agree with you to 95%, and then he would say the only reason that he doesn't is because there's not a huge amount of consistency in that in that operation. Right?
100%. And this is what I've always found interesting about it.
You can't rely on it.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
You can't rely on individuals every single week. You can rely on the system, but the happy medium is exactly what you want. And like, going back to the Man United DNA stuff, I remember watching Alex Ferguson's Man United, and they were often really boring.
Yeah.
They often did not dominate games. They often did not do all these pretty things that everyone thinks they did with romantic revisionism.
They had eras, but not that many.
And moments in games. And there were some games when you play against Man City where you can play in the break and you can get all those sorts of joys. Obviously not Man City.
Worth saying, like the 2008 team that had Ronaldo and Tevez and Rooney that were really good. I think one of the reasons they were particularly memorable was because they were particularly exciting, and that was a little different to normal.
Yeah, and then you think about the older Man United teams, they had lots of functional players. The team that Moyes inherited had like John O'Shea in midfield and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So, but you have lots of defensive solidity, and then you can build from that. So oftentimes your system looks like a system because it's just defensive players with a bit of flair players. So if you have individuals, often you need to supplement them with defensive players who have the work rate to afford them freedom, but they've got to be really special to allow that, and we've seen that in other iterations. And I totally agree with the point that that's what happens when you have individuals, is you can't guarantee it's going to happen every single week.
Yeah.
Some players you can, Messi, Mbappe, like you can almost guarantee it, but very rarely you can, which is why you come into this thing where it's like, I like that there's no one particular answer, but if you're trying to work in the system, you've got to focus on the system, but if it means taking your individuals out of their best positions, it doesn't make sense.
Just to get ahead of the YouTube commenters, I know you were using him as a flippant example. John O'Shea had left United years before Moyes took over.
Well, players like
for
John
example,
O'Shea, you know what I mean?
JJ and his low thinking. Bringing John O'Shea in.
Antonio Valencia.
Yeah.
And
I actually,
right.
someone was saying to me the other day in the office that surely that like last Ferguson first David Moyes team was like one of the worst ones, because we were talking about Amorim saying this is the worst team. We went back to look at it. We were like, this is an amazing.
They had Rooney and Van Persie up front.
It's an amazing team. It's so good.
But they were all
absolute
they were
absolute
a bit old,
greats of the Premier League era.
Yeah, for sure. And they were still both decent under Moyes.
I think Van Persie was in his peak. Like
Van Persie,
Rooney was old.
Van Persie was unbelievable in that 12-13 season.
Yeah.
Rooney was kind of done, I think, by this point. Ferguson had tried to sell Rooney at the end of the 12-13 season. Do you remember when Man United lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League in 12-13? Ferguson famously dropped Rooney for that game. And it was, I think, on Ferguson's last ever game, Man United, he tried to get rid of Rooney. So Rooney was clearly on the way down by that point, and Van Persie was about to be on the way down.
He was still good.
But they were still great players.
And Van Persie was still good at the World Cup after 13-14, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But the thing that made that team worse than you're making out, having looked at the squad, is that like Rio, Ferdinand, and Nemanja Vidic at the back were old and slow and not very good.
Yeah, but then there was Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, and Johnny Evans, who were the
Evans
the
was
third,
really good
fourth,
that year,
and fifth centre backs. That's a very strong team.
Danny Welbeck felt mid then. Valencia didn't feel particularly exciting. Cleverly was kind of mid.
Valencia was a terrific player.
Oh no, I know,
but
he was for a certain time. At the time I think Moyes took over, I don't think he was that.
Right.
Antonio Valencia became what I like to think that every club has a Joel Ward. Right, just a kind of very average, not good enough to be poached by another team, but not bad enough to get rid of player that you just keep around for ages. He became United's Joel Ward. Tottenham's is obviously Ben Davis.
I think that is a disservice to Antonio Valencia. Antonio Valencia was so good that the club made him number 7. And then the weight of that crushed him for a season. He gave the shirt away and picked a different one. Yeah. But that's how good he was.
He had a horrible technique though. He would shoot his crosses.
Sure, he wasn't very good at shooting.
Or crossing, because
Valencia was good.
He was good at crossing. He wasn't good at shooting. I'll give you that. Right. But I don't want to besmirch the memory of Antonio Valencia as though he is dead. For he's not, Steve, is he?
Time recording now.
Steve was off. He was. I caught him adrift there. He was.
No, I was trying to type in the script. Reason.
Oh, you were typing. Oh, there's a script here. I didn't notice that one today.
Says Steve.
Here's what I think. This is not comparing Michael Carrick to Reuben Amorim. This is also taking into account the fact that Manchester United are pretty good in these games against bigger teams. And as we've agreed already, the tell will be as it was midweek last week when they played and drew 2-2 to Burnley, right? Like when they go up against a team that they're expected to beat and a team whose block they must break down. But I do think that credit should go to Carrick for the team selection, because I think it was a little bit unexpected. there's a lot of conversation beforehand about amongst Manchester United fans of, okay, if the team is shifting from a 3 back into a 4, and you're bringing Kobbie Mainoo back into the team, really you're not really losing a centre back. You're losing a forward. You're losing someone further up the field, because often in Manchester United's 3 back system, there have been, Luke Shaw was playing one of the centre back positions, for example, and he started at left back. So actually, the player that you lost from the team for this game was Matthias Cunha, who dropped to the bench and was replaced by Bryan Mbeumo.
Because Dorgu played as a winger.
Played as a winger. And there was a lot of conversation. How do you fit Bryan Mbeumo and Ahmad into the same team? We've seen them a couple of times in the 3-back system play on the same side. Neither of them really suit playing on the left-hand side. I don't think anybody predicted that this would be the case. I don't think anybody predicted that Patrick Dorgu would again start on left wing. But Dorgu and Ahmad were absolutely... I mean, they were Man United's best players, I thought, in this game. They were absolutely brilliant out of possession. They did such a fantastic defensive job. A lot was made of Man United's attacking capability, but they were the reason that Man City kept losing the ball in their own half. And I don't think every manager would have picked that starting selection.
Well, I think Carrick had a very clear plan of what he wanted to do and communicated it very clearly to his players. So from what I can see, obviously, having not been in any meetings in Man United.
You weren't in any of the meetings?
None, no. If I was, I'd probably have forgotten everything.
It's the low thinking.
Yeah, the low thinking strikes again. But you can see, so out of possession, they're like a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is trying to just block the middle, be compact in the middle, have like connections with each other so that City can't play through you, push them wide. So on the so every game I watch, I write loads of notes. So I can remember what happened. And I remember constantly thinking...
JJ is hungry right now. JJ wants to eat an ice cream.
That's what I do.
Those sorts of notes.
How do you see my notes? And so what I kept writing was that City kept having spare players. So I thought maybe the press wasn't quite right, because at the very start, they always had spare players. I'm like, let me just find exactly what it was.
JJ had 2.5 biscuits at 10:30.
Where do horses live at night? Oh, no. Yes. So they always have a spare man in the press. So 19 minutes in, I've seen players switch between player marking jobs for Man United. So they clearly had 2 jobs. It was like a hybrid press. So one person would watch them for some parts. Mainoo would be going tight on Rodri for some times. Then it'd be someone else. And it felt like they were leaving players in the wide areas to receive the ball. But then that was okay, because when they got the ball, then they would shift. So on the right-hand side of Man United's team, you'd have, I think it's Ahmad would drop in to support Dalot. So Dalot would go out really quickly to close down the winger. Ahmad would try and drop into the space, or someone would drop into the space behind him to try and make sure that they're doubled up. So whenever if the player did go 1v1 and go past Dalot, there's another player to deal with him. Yeah. So little things like that, and it changed where they were in the pitch. And I was questioning whether is that on purpose? Has Carrick got that bit wrong? Will they adjust it at halftime? I'm not really sure still, but it meant that City couldn't play to the middle of them, and that is the most important bit of the pitch, right? You block the middle out, you can't get it. And then, because of the way they're positioned, they could then hit them on the counter and have players in exactly the right places to take advantage of the spaces that were created. And it just looked so sensible and normal, and because it worked, it looked good.
Who have they got next?
Arsenal.
Oh, another game where they could employ the same tactiques
at the Emirates.
Yeah, very exciting.
I think Arsenal will be very different the way they play against them.
Well, let's find out. Going to be exciting. As good as Manchester United were, nothing to take away from them, Jack. Man City were weren't they? They were actually really poor. Something in your throat there.
So I think as much in the same way that it was probably the best United performance in years, I think it was also the worst City performance in years. They just looked, they looked kind of weirdly uncompetitive.
Yeah.
They also, I think the problem they've got is that we've been talking all season about how this was a very different City, and the way that it's different is that it's actually much less system based and much more individualistic. They don't look like they're playing a different brand of football from everyone else. They just look like a bunch of guys, some of whom are very good. And they don't have the sort of possession goalkeeper. They just have a really good shot stopper in Donnarumma. They have
who incidentally stopped this game from being 5-0,
exactly. Who was himself really good. They like their attacking play. It's not been about we're going to get 80% possession and create 30 shots. It's actually about we've got a really big, good, scary number 9. We're going to get the ball to him quickly, and he's going to run through you and bang it in the goal.
And now, like kind of 1v1 powerful wingers.
Yeah, exactly right. And 2 really, really direct wingers in Doku and Semenyo. But the problem with it is that it's inherently a really brittle approach, right? Because if your approach is built on, we have a really good striker, he's going to run through you. When he stops running through you, through the opposition, what have you got to fall back on? Like City have been so... Like, even when City were good this year, everyone knows they've been, like, it was insanely dependent on Haaland.
Yeah.
Far more dependent on Haaland than they have ever been before, even in the sort of peak years. They were never that dependent on even like David De Bruyne. He didn't even exist. They didn't depend on him because he didn't exist. On David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, even Aguero, Sterling, all those guys, like they weren't that dependent. Like Kevin De Bruyne,
Gundogan popped up with a lot of goals as well, didn't he?
He did score a lot of goals, but there was always another guy, right?
Supplementary.
Like Kevin De Bruyne missed like a whole year with a knee injury in like 2018, and City just continued to be exactly as good, even without De Bruyne. But with Haaland, because everything they do is so dependent on him, when he has a dip, the team stops being good. The team goes from good to bad, and that's what's happened. City have gone from good to bad because Haaland looks a bit tired, basically.
Yeah, I was also thinking that I wonder how much the League Cup game during the week maybe took it out of some of those players. And one of the biggest starting 11 differences was having, I think, Rico Lewis in that team. I feel like he gets run over every single time he plays. Yeah. Really good in little small spaces as like a 5-a-side player. So I get why he gets in the team. He's obviously a very talented young man. Yeah. But I feel like he does not have it. Like he doesn't have the aggression. He was at fault
for the Dorgu goal as well.
Oh, was he? Well, it's individual errors.
He didn't track at the back.
It was amazing how Dorgu could just run straight through the whole City defence.
I know he
was so far away from scoring that goal. Like he should have. I would say in like 99 times out of 100, the attacking player in that position, when they're being defended, doesn't score that goal. Yeah, he just wasn't defended. It's
and I really don't want to be like harsh on Lewis. Again, obviously a very talented player, like an England level player. But I just feel like there's like a vulnerability to him or something about him that when he's on the team, they're not. I would much. In fact, the easiest way to do it, as I like doing it, is if you're playing, if you're trying to run at someone, a defender, would you rather run against Rico Lewis or Matheus Nunes?
Yeah,
you'd rather run.
That's very fair.
Well, that's why O'Reilly's replaced him, right? Like Lewis was kind of like City's best young fullback, and now like O'Reilly has seemingly kind of massively jumped over him, both for Manchester City and for England in the last sort of 6 to 12 months.
I suppose all of these problems were also exacerbated by the lack of senior centre backs,
massively.
So you lose physicality there as well by having to play this Max Elaine guy who I only heard of 2 weeks ago.
He's on loan at Watford. He's a really talented young player, but he was literally playing for Watford the other week, right? And he's playing alongside Nathan Ake, who has not really been himself for quite a while, and is probably like should be on the way out because Stones is injured, Diaz is injured. They're so they've been really reliant on those two. Like Kusanov's having to play a lot at the moment, and clearly like City at centre back is not a strong position right now.
Feels like John Stones plays more for England than he does for City.
He times his fitness.
Yeah. I'm kind of worried from an England perspective about Stones because England are.
Should we do England chat? Yeah, let's do England.
Yeah. Like England are so dependent on Stones. Like Tuchel absolutely loves him. He is ridiculously good for England and just totally elevates the team. But he's barely playing. Like he's barely played for City at all. Like,
but thankfully for England and for City, Mark Guehi exists.
Well, we're going to come to Mark Guehi in a minute. For 2 things very quickly, though. The first is, let's just settle this now. You cover England for The Athletic, and you say Tuchel. I think it's actually Tuchel. Right. Okay.
I think it's that sound.
You scare me every time you say it.
I have a bit of a... I should always say Tuchel, but
what have you got a bit of? What is it?
The ick about saying that. I don't know. I just feel like I'm kind of putting it on.
Can't you say Tuchel?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is Tuchel, and I don't think it is Tuchel. I probably I find myself saying Tuchel too much, and people say it's not Tuchel. He's not French, and that's true. He's not French. He's German. But I should. I struggle with it. I need to get back. Given that my job is talking about England on podcasts,
it's sort of fine. I don't mind what you
right.
say. I lose confidence in myself when I hear you.
Well, I lose confidence in myself when I.
Well, we're just the room's just plummeting in terms of confidence.
I'm going through pronunciations. I'm decided I'm going to just pronounce them in exactly however I want to do it.
You're
now.
Scottish. You couldn't get away with it.
Well, I can do the soft sound like the loch sound.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's that sort of sound, isn't it?
Yeah, Tuchel. Yeah. So there's certain. I think that exact. I can't remember what the word is. Having studied phonetics for a bit at uni, but it's only Scottish, Greek, and Japanese have that noise or something.
Really?
Like that. Maybe it's just.
I
Scottish
think the
and Greek.
Welsh have it as well.
Maybe, but I think it's not stronger. It's really someone who's much higher thinking than me will be able to say that what this is.
We'll find ourselves a high thinking Scot one of these days. Now you're absolutely right, Reuben. Mark Guehi is to join Manchester City, apparently. Writes Steve, those defensive difficulties for City look set to be eased by the signing of Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace. Very exciting. Guehi, another very good signing alongside Antoine Semenyo in the January window. I mean, Jack, they seem to be trying to improve. It's interesting. I was listening to the Totally Football podcast earlier, and the gang there were describing how Manchester City obviously aren't capitalising on Arsenal dropping a few points, but also look in their performances almost as though they've given up on the notion of winning the league, which it's very feasible still. They really could do that, and at least the team are adding players as though they believe that's still a possibility.
Yeah, I mean the gap isn't that big. I think Arsenal win the league because I don't think City will get so many points in the sort of second half of the season as to put enough pressure on Arsenal. But you're right, City have had a weird approach to this kind of whole rebuild where they didn't really sign enough players. They didn't sign enough good players through what you might call the sort of peak years of Pep City. And they stuck with the same guys for quite a long time. Yeah. And then it's really, I feel like in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, they've been doing all the recruitment that should really have started in earnest in 2022, 2023. But back in 2022, 23, it was the whole vibe was more like, we're just going to keep going with Stones and Walker and Bernardo Silva and all these other guys. We're going to keep and Edison, all these guys. We're going to keep going forever.
And Mahrez, it was so difficult to get into that team.
It's hard to destabilize the treble-winning team. Though,
it was such a stable team, and they kind of didn't change anything for ages. And then they got to when they started horrifically badly at the start of last season. It's amazing, really, in hindsight, they won the 23-24 title.
Amazing.
Because that team was completely running on empty. But for some reason, they managed to just,
Steve's shaking his head. Says a lot about Arsenal, the fact that they won that title, doesn't it?
In that what's that cartoon Roadrunner where the guy keeps running off the edge of the cliff and he's running
Roadrunner,
before he falls down.
Yeah.
That was basically Manchester City at the end of the 23-24 season.
Yes.
The players were obviously all exhausted, physically and mentally, but they just kept going and going and going and going.
It's Ferguson's last season.
Yeah, exactly like that. They kept going and going to win the Premier League title. Yeah. And then only when they won that Premier League title, then they were like, oh wow, we really are running on nothing here.
They got some freak performances out of Foden that year.
Exactly, Foden was really good and Haaland was really good, and but it's only I think kind of subsequently caught up with them. They're like, oh wow, we actually can't go on with Mahrez, Walker, Stones, Edison, etc. forever, and they've had to do all their rebuilding in a rush. In a probably not textbook rebuilding-y way in the last year or so.
So actually, in hindsight, the Marmoush signing feels ill-advised.
He was really good, wasn't he, for a bit? And now he's not really done anything for ages.
But he doesn't seem to fit.
And he was a top scorer in Bundesliga as well. He was flying. He was very good.
But now he doesn't really fit. So long-term, I'm like, why did they get him?
If Football Manager has taught me anything, is that Arsenal are going to lose in the final few games of the season.
Oh my God.
They're going to win it.
Do you know where they go on the final day?
And they'll be so annoyed that they frisbee the game into the graveyard behind their house.
Selhurst Park they come to on the final day of the season.
Do they? Well, there'll be no players or manager left
at
Crystal Palace come the final day. And Arsenal will still somehow find a way to lose. We all know. Let's have a quick look at Arsenal's upcoming fixtures, because we said they have Manchester United at the weekend. Perhaps Manchester United can repay Man City the favour. That doesn't really work out. It can balance out what they've done to Manchester City. It's a big week, of course, because Arsenal have Inter in the Champions League on Tuesday night before they play at home to Manchester United. Another midweek fare next week, and then they're away to Leeds That'll be a tough game, a challenging physical game.
Ellen Road is the epitome of that cliche of tough place to go.
Absolutely. Then they've got a home tie in the EFL Cup semi-final, the second leg to Chelsea. That's going to be a difficult game.
Which they should have put to bed, but didn't.
But it's still awake, isn't it,
Yeah,
Reuben? You're
awake.
absolutely right. It's crying and awake at 11 p.m. Then they're at home to Sunderland, another difficult physical fare. Then they're away to Brentford, a team that we thought would collapse completely, but instead are going to finish in the Champions League positions.
And we'll battle them 100% for set-piece kings. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then they are home to Wigan Athletic in the FA Cup fourth round. A replay of a time I definitely remember watching Charles Nzogbia score an incredible last-minute goal to beat Arsenal.
League Cup, I think it was.
Yeah, League Cup 15
Jason
years
Roberts
ago.
scored in that game maybe as well.
Then it's Tottenham, Chelsea, Brighton, Everton. I mean, it doesn't get any easier,
No, but
right?
I love when we do this with so many teams.
All
And we're
the
like,
teams
oh,
are
that's
good.
a tough run of
Yeah,
games.
you're
It's
like,
yeah, because
Wolves,
everyone's decent.
Wolves are on a good run at the moment too.
There are no easy games in the Premier League.
Quick pause, by the way, just on Wolves. Who have they got? They've got a big team coming up this weekend as well, haven't they? But my thought is that if they get a point out of their weekend game, then Rob Edwards is manager of the month, right, for January. Can you think, is there a better, more deserving manager of the month for January than Rob Edwards?
Probably yes.
Who?
David Moyes?
King Edward.
King Edward.
Yes. He managed the kingdom well.
Right, yeah. But what about you? Do you think there's one?
No.
No. What about you?
No, he deserves it.
Steve Hankey?
I mean, not Keith Andrews, Brentford. They're on a pretty good run.
Well, Manager of the Month awards are all about novelty. This is a surprise. It's new, you know.
Yeah,
This
but I
is
don't
why-
think Andrews has won it, though. has he, so?
Who was it that just like never won Player of the Month? Was it Aguero? Did he go for ages without winning it? It's like
It was Kevin De Bruyne.
De Bruyne, yeah.
So I think Mourinho barely ever won Manager of the
Yeah,
Month.
because the
people always assume he would always
mundanity of
win.
them being good is yeah.
Well, Wolves had basically 0 points for almost the whole of the season.
They go to City now.
And then they played Manchester United on the 30th of December in that game. It was a big laughing stock at the time, but it turned out to just be the beginning of the new Wolves. That was 1-1. Then they beat West Ham 3-0. West Ham were admittedly dreadful in that game. Then they drew with Everton. Everton did have 10 men, but that's the team that we just watched beat Aston Villa. Then they won 6-1 against Shrewsbury. Or Shrewsbury, as I'm sure the people nearby say. Do they say Shrewsbury?
There was like a sort of referendum about it, and I think it was basically split down the middle, but one was decided, and I can't remember which one.
What a shame you can't remember
No.
that. And of course, they drew 0-0 with Newcastle over the weekend. It's Manchester City that they've got on Saturday, and I feel as though there's a point to be had there,
Well, with this Mateusz Mane guy, he looks really good, doesn't he?
Where did they find him in the academy?
I believe he was already there, yeah.
Right.
Very young. He's still a teenager, so I assume they picked him up in his teenage years, yeah.
Good for him, but also good
Really
for
good
Rob Edwards. I do think, on a serious note, well, in some ways they're helped by the fact that they were definitely relegated by the time that they had their new manager. But you've got to say kudos to the team that are now grinding out tough draw, 1 point results in a season where they know they've already gone down. That takes some doing, I would say.
Yeah. There was discussion about them, should they just sell their best players now, accept relegation? But that would have really tanked the atmosphere further. And now they've got a little bit of positive momentum.
Yeah.
So they should definitely keep hold of them.
Let's finish above Burnley.
And then sell Strand Larsen in the summer.
Absolutely. Okay, well done to Wolves, and good luck for the rest of the season. Jack, let's play The Ring! Do you know what The Ring is?
No idea.
Do you remember how
Is it like that
excited-
Japanese horror film where the girl comes out the TV?
Yeah, Joe lives in your house.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
it's
stays
like
in your
that.
house for a couple of months. And
We talked about you at the weekend because we know you have played with enthusiasm previously the Separation game.
Oh, I love it.
Well, we're not playing that today.
Oh, no.
Instead, we're playing The Ring. Well, you must roll your R, okay? Here's how The Ring works. It's a sort of last person standing affair where we give the three of you a topic and you go around in a circle and continue to name things that have come from that topic until you can no longer name something.
Okay.
If you name the wrong thing or you fail to name anything, you're out of the game. And then it's whoever is the final person standing.
And
That's
the
victory.
timing aspect is completely down to how bored you are.
Exactly.
do you know what you should do?
If you feel dead air, it helps. with the
Don't
time.
call it The Ring, call it The Rondo.
Oh, the Rondo. That's a good name. And I can still roll my R.
And then we can market
Yeah,
it as a
I like
sellable
it.
game.
Okay, let's play the Rondo.
Could we possibly have a break before we play the Rondo?
You want to have a break before we play the Rondo?
Please.
But how will the audience manage it?
We'll have to wait until after
Will
the
they
break.
be sat there listening to the advertisements with bated breath, thinking about the Rondo?
That's my hope.
And purchasing whatever we try to sell you. Enjoy! All right, welcome back. And it's time to play the Rondo. Now, the topic of today's Rondo is as follows. Rondo. Is Spurs managers, JPB, I think you can do well here. There are 24 possible answers to this quiz, okay? And the Tottenham managers, they're only during the period of Daniel Levy. So Daniel Levy arrived in December 2000. There was already a manager in place when he arrived, so that person is included in this list. Also included is all possible caretakers, all interims, anyone like that. And in some cases, there are multiple instances of the same person or people who are doing this job. So if you have, let's say, for example, one manager had done it twice, then there would be one instance and two instances. You could have those as two separate answers.
Understood.
Make sense?
Yes.
You clear, JPB?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Well, let's start with you, Reuben. Please name a Spurs manager that has managed under Daniel Levy.
Jose Mourinho.
Yes to Jose Mourinho. JJ.
Funny, I forgot that one. Harry Redknapp.
Harry Redknapp. Yes, one of my favourites. JPB.
Mauricio Pochettino.
Maurizio Pochettino. Yes. Back to you, Reuben.
Antonio Conte.
Antonio Conte. Yes. JJ.
Ryan Mason.
Ryan Mason.
The first time.
Yes. There you go. Okay, you've got it.
Ryan Mason the second.
That's right. You've got that one as well.
You give away answers when you respond to them like that.
It's fun.
Martin Jol.
Martin Jol, you can have.
Juan de Ramos.
Juan de Ramos. There he is.
Christian Stellini.
Now you should save the hard ones for later, but you can have Christian Stellini. Okay, there we go. Reuben? It's not getting hard yet.
Tim Sherwood.
Tim Sherwood, you can absolutely have. JJ?
Nuno Espirito Santo.
Nuno Espirito Santo. He is yours.
Ange Postecoglou.
Yes, Ange
Forgot
Postecoglou.
about him. Andre Villas-Boas.
Andre Villas-Boas, you can have. Absolutely. JJ?
Christian Gross.
No, you're out of the game.
This is where it gets really hard.
I would say it's still not really hard.
I just panicked. I could have taken some extra seconds.
Jack, you're in.
George Graham.
George Graham was the manager that was there, of course, when Daniel Levy arrived. He was manager between 1998 and March 2001, so he's the first 4 months of Daniel Levy's era.
As you were explaining the rules, I was desperately trying to think of his name because I had Mike Graham in my mind, but they're very different people.
Very different. Reuben?
See,
I would say off the list, there are two incredibly gettable names.
Yeah.
One of them is mind-bendingly gettable.
Right, is it Thomas Frank?
It's Thomas Frank,
Yeah.
yes.
So
The
I
current
wasn't
Spurs manager.
sure when Levy left and he took over whether they overlapped.
I think they did, right? They definitely
Yeah,
did.
Levy appointed him.
Okay.
JPB.
Glenn Hoddle.
Glenn Hoddle was the other really easy one. Now it's difficult, and I think you're going to lose, Reuben.
Yeah. See, in my mind, they went Yol, Juan de Ramos, Redknapp, AVB, and that might be true, so I don't really know
I think they did do that.
anyone in between.
Yeah. So there's one manager, I guess, not. Yeah, I mean interim caretaker. He was there for a few months in 2004, and then beyond that, there was a couple of instances of two people doing it together or being listed to do it together, which is interesting. And then there is two instances of the same player, who I guess would have been also the captain, who was interim.
That's
for a
interesting.
period of time.
Would that have been
Something you do with your trousers.
You've thrown me there. No idea.
Sheringham.
Never mind.
I was going to say Jurgen Klinsmann.
And 5, 4,
Jurgen Klinsmann,
3,
no.
2, you're out of the game. JPB, if you can name one, you've won.
David Pleat.
David Pleat, you pleat your trousers.
He wins the Rondo.
David Pleat. There was two instances of David Pleat, so you could have had when you did have
I
one
would
of
also
those.
have Jacques Santini.
Jacques Santini, you can have.
I think that kind of.
What about the guys doing it together? According to the internet,
Would that be Clive Allen
yes,
and
Alex
Inglethorpe?
Inglethorpe. Two instances,
Christ, well
according to Wikipedia, that Clive Allen and Alex Inglethorpe
Which
did it
sackings was
together.
those? Was that between AVB and Sherwood?
It was immediately after the sacking of Martin Jol,
Before Ramos?
and then it was immediately after the sacking of Juan de Ramos.
Before Redknapp?
Yeah. In those little gaps right there. Well, you should have won. You did win.
I should have won. If I had not won that, I would have resigned.
We were so
from the
close
company.
to getting rid of him, guys. We were so close. Okay. Now, Reuben, there have been better weeks for Crystal Palace. Right, Steve?
Last year.
Last year, many of those weeks, 52 of them, after suffering the biggest FA Cup set ever last weekend, which was, remind me, against...
Macclesfield FC.
That's right, we talked about that, didn't we? This weekend, it was announced that their FA Cup and Community Shield winning manager, Oliver Glasner, will be leaving at the end of the season. Now, Steve has written, it was announced. I think it's fair to say he announced that he would be leaving. On top of that, we mentioned Mark Guehi looks to be, or has joined, I think, already maybe, or is joining. I don't know.
Depends when people are listening to this at time of recording.
Who the hell knows? Manchester City.
He's in Manchester.
And on top of that, following defeat to Sunderland, manager Oliver Glasner gave the sort of post-match interview that Ruben Amorim would be proud of, saying his squad, right, Steve? I mean, Steve didn't write this bit. Oliver Glasner said it, are being abandoned completely by the club's hierarchy. He went on to criticise the timings of the sales of Eberechi Eze and Mark Guehi and the lack of subsequent investment in the squad. Mm-hmm. Having said all of that, the latest reporting is also that the club aren't going to sack him. It seems kind of like a bit of a messy situation.
It's very messy. Well, I personally really didn't like the timing of these announcements on the Friday because I just spent a not insignificant amount of money on a trip to Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina to watch Palace play in the Conference League.
Right.
And then an hour later found out that he would be off at the end of the season and Guehi was leaving immediately.
Right.
The timing of it is the thing that most people have a problem with, I think, because on deadline day in the summer, it was very understandable that he kicked up a fuss and said, you can't sell Guehi on deadline day when we haven't replaced him. And the club kind of were like, okay, fine. They gave him what he wanted in a sense. And then, this time, his complaint is that the sale is a day before a game. But it's not deadline day. Like, we have 2 weeks to try and replace him. And it feels like we're not 100% sure on the kind of timing and reason for everything, but it feels like him deciding to announce that same press conference that he would be leaving at the end of the season rather than extending his contract was an emotional reaction to being told he couldn't use Guehi in that game or forevermore.
Right.
Because he said he told Steve Parish in October, but then he decided now was the right time to tell the players and the fans because they're selling my captain and I'm going to kick up a fuss. And then the defeat on Saturday, he faced some boos for the first time from the Palace fans as he went over to clap them after the game. He didn't make one substitution in that Sunderland game, despite the fact that he had, he said bench full of kids. And like JD Canvo, the young centre-back who could have played in Guehi's position, but didn't because Lerma played there. He's 19, sure, but he's a first-team player who's had some good performances. Uche is a striker that can play, could have come on. Borna Sosa is an awful footballer, but one that Glasner had a part in signing. So like there were senior players on the bench, not great ones, but he could have made a sub and decided not to, I think, maybe in that way that managers do to make a point to the board.
Yeah.
But look, a lot of fans understand his frustration when it comes to not getting the necessary investment in the squad. When it comes to replacing players, like he wanted 2 attackers to spread the load of what Eze was doing last season and only got Yeremy Pino plus Uche, who he just doesn't seem to rate.
Yeah.
But what people have a gripe with is the way he doubled down on Saturday, used the phrase, I don't care, when he said, well, whether Palace want to finish the season with me or with somebody else, I don't know, I don't care. Is maybe like heat at the moment, flippant use of language, wasn't that calculated. But
the kind of thing I say to my wife during arguments, I don't care about you. You can't hurt me, woman. That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. But obviously using the phrase, I don't care, is not going to go down with fans who care more than players and managers ever will.
Or my wife.
No.
Doesn't work with my wife either.
No. What did she think about Oliver Glasner saying, I don't care?
She was pissed off about it.
Well, exactly.
She said she cared and he cared too.
Yeah. Well, so it sounded...
And that if only he could admit that he cared, maybe we could move on.
Yeah.
And get over
stop leaving the cupboard doors open.
Exactly.
It sounded like he was trying to talk himself into the sack. Because I think a manager like him in this situation will be aware that no win in 10 now that reputation, that run of results is going to have a negative effect on his reputation as he enters a very competitive manager market in the summer.
Yeah.
So it means he's bad now.
Well, yeah.
Because he hasn't won all the games. It means he's bad.
If he keeps losing, will United go, actually, we'll go for somebody else, you know?
Well, I mean, the other thing I suppose is interesting is that this story comes out at this time. You talk about a bad run of performances, but also there's the kind of I'm aware now that I wasn't before of the historical precedent of this kind of thing with my wife happening before. Not my wife, with Oliver Glasner happening before. These emotional outbursts with my wife.
Your wife is Oliver Glasner.
I'm just joking. Anyway, I didn't know until I listened to some podcasts this weekend that he's done this before. He's got a record for doing this kind of thing at previous teams. I thought he was always sort of calm old sage.
No, he's a pretty emotional guy. And yeah, he's known as like a 2-year manager because I gather similar things happened at Wolfsburg and Eintracht Frankfurt. But the thing is, with that complaint of his, surely you know when you go to work for Palace that this is how the club operates. They're going to have to sell their best players, try to reinvest it.
You knew who I was when you married me.
Exactly. It's worked for a few years.
Yeah.
And it's going to, you're not always going to replace them with great players.
What one would assume.
And working with Steve Parish, famously, he's very careful with money. I think justifiably, given that when he bought the club, he was saving them from liquidation. He knows the financial horrors that Palace have been through. So it's understandable that he's very careful with how he spends his money.
That's right.
And ultimately, the stadium is small. And until they give the main stand a big extension, then
there just isn't space for more furniture. There isn't.
Exactly. Revenues are going to be limited.
I agree. I'm so on the side of whichever one is me. I don't know which one is me. But I'm on my own side.
But I wonder how toxic. So I'm going to the Chelsea game on Sunday at Selhurst Park. I wonder how toxic it's going to be. I think Glasner is going to have to...
It's at Chelsea.
No, it's at Selhurst.
Oh, that's a shame.
I think he's going to have to row back in his next press conference a little bit.
He's gone full Conte. I never thought, it's what they always say, never go full Conte.
Just go half.
And he's, it's weird because I thought he was I'm sure when he got the job, I remember Steve Parish saying, he's such a positive, optimistic guy. And yet he's it does feel a little bit like the sort of thing that you say if you want to get sacked.
Yeah.
I don't know what he wants, but generally when with my Spurs brain, I obviously think about when Conte was sacked in March 2023 and he was sacked after he gave this like absolute flamethrower press conference after a 3-3 draw at Saints where he just kind of destroyed everyone. And obviously with the expectation that he would get sacked. And of course he did get sacked and that was the end of his time in England. But hearing Glasner kick off like that the other day, it did sound a bit like this was his kind of Conte moment.
And it seems like Parish is not bowing to that pressure. Like David Austin reported yesterday, Palace don't plan to sack him. I wonder if that's because Parish didn't expect to have to find a new manager at this point. And he's like, I don't know who to get. And maybe he'll calm down.
It's because it's infinitely funnier to not pay him the money for him to leave. He's throwing his toys out, like he's going like, Wah! And I understand why.
Yeah.
But it's much funnier for Parish to then be like,
it is funnier, and I completely understand why in the circumstance the chairman would want to call the manager's bluff and say, well, I don't care if you've got a holiday booked. You're like, you're just going to lose that deposit on that hotel because you have a contract to manage my team. The problem, of course, is that if it gets super toxic and they keep losing and the real problem is that like footballers, at every single club, footballers need no excuse to stop trying.
Yeah.
Like as soon as footballers realise that the manager has no power, the players stop trying.
Yeah.
Like that is Taylor's
announcing
tale as old as time
at the end of the season is weird.
So as soon as you say that, you kind of become a lame duck manager.
Yeah.
And then if the manager's vibe is, well, I don't care if I'm here or not, that is I don't care if I'm here, if I'm the manager or not, is such a bad thing for the players to hear.
Yeah.
Because if the players think, well, if he doesn't care, why should I even try?
Yeah.
Why should I press? Why should I train? Why should I do any of this? I don't care. I don't care either. I want to transfer. I've got the World Cup next year.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't want to get injured before the new coach comes in, so I can prove to that person that I should be playing.
And so there's always the risk, and this is you often get this at different clubs. Like it's certainly not like it's just this specific to this situation, but there's a risk that they think the worse things get, the more eventually the chairman will have to say, "Oh, I'm going to have to pay him off. I really don't want to pay him off. I'm going to have to pay him off."
It sort of feels like you've started talking about Tottenham already.
All I ever do is talk about Tottenham. I ever do is talk
it's
about Tottenham.
It's a much smaller payout than a lot of managerial situations, though. He's out of contract at the end of the year.
That's true, but we have officially moved on. I didn't do it, Reuben. I didn't do it. JPB did it, but we're going to talk about Spurs now. Speaking of toxic, writes Steve, Thomas Frank's tenure as Tottenham Hotspur manager may have been dealt a hammer blow. Against relegation-threatened West Ham United.
One way to get him out.
That's true.
Chase him with hammers.
With a hammer.
Yeah.
I'm personally delighted about this because I've still got a lunch-related friendly wager that West Ham will stay up, and it's looking a lot like I'm going to have to buy an expensive lunch. So fingers crossed they can sneak their way out there with more of the same, like a 93rd minute winner from Callum Wilson, who only came on 2 minutes earlier, and I thought had already left the team, but apparently not. He saw Spurs lose at home again. Big boos ringing out the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, directed squarely at Thomas Frank. At the time of recording, Thomas Frank still in post. Last night, I was sort of thinking, well, he's going to get sacked, and it's going to be a repeat of the Reuben Amorim episode, and we're going to have to change the whole plan. Thankfully, we're still talking about Spurs deep in the recesses of the episode instead of at the very beginning. That would be a real shame, wouldn't it? But the pressure is sort of feeling as though it's on the precipice of untenable, Jack.
Yeah, it's funny. Seconds ago, I was thinking, can something
just
be,
seconds ago,
literally as you were talking, before you used the U word, untenable.
Yeah.
I was thinking, can a situation be quite untenable? Can a situation be fairly untenable?
Yeah.
Because I think that Thomas Frank,
like being kind of unique.
Yeah, Thomas Frank's Tottenham tenure is fairly untenable,
sure.
or was rendered fairly untenable on Saturday evening when he got absolutely killed by the Spurs fans.
His tenability is fragile.
But the prefix is quite decisive, no? So I'd say it's somewhat tenable.
Yeah, it's somewhat tenable.
Its tenability is tenuous.
Yeah.
It was thrown into tenuous tenability by what happened on Saturday night, where I think I genuinely can't. All those Tottenham managers that we listed earlier, I think Thomas Frank is currently more unpopular than any of them were.
Wow.
Even
I think he's
Mourinho and Conte.
Yeah, well, the thing about Conte never got booed like Thomas Frank did on Saturday. Nuno got booed a little bit, but it was never that personal. With Mourinho, it's a bit weird because all the bad bits of Mourinho happened during COVID. So the fans were never in the stadium to see and boo Mourinho. I think they probably would have booed him a bit, but it's hard.
At least under Conte.
It's hard to know. But I think Frank is just incredibly unpopular at the moment.
Yeah.
The thing it really reminds me of is Roy Hodgson at Liverpool.
Right.
Where you've got a really good manager who has succeeded at a lower level of club, who then takes a step up to a much bigger club, and it just doesn't work. And he doesn't know, it's the football, it's the things that he says, the things that he doesn't say. He never connects with the fans. The fans decide, you don't get us, we don't get you, you don't get our football. You sort of talk down to us as well a bit in a way that we don't like, and you're not doing enough of the whole I'm so flattered to be at this huge football club. This is amazing. Thank you so much for having me. You're not really doing any of that. And the Liverpool fans really did not like Roy Hodgson at all.
No. He's quite unpopular at Palace these days as well, because he had that negative, be careful what you wish for. Let's not forget.
And I think that the way that Spurs fans really don't like Thomas Frank. It's really he's got. There's been so much booing at Spurs this year. It's you really have to peer through the booing to find out, are they booing the officials? Are they booing the hierarchy?
Yeah.
Are they booing
the
results,
everything?
the performance, the players in general, the players in particular?
My life is shit.
I always think that when they boo a sub, are they booing the decision to take somebody off, or booing the decision to bring someone on?
But what's been incredibly clear to me in the last few weeks is that the booing is very personally directed at Thomas Frank.
Right.
That's been in quite a few away. So
bless him.
I was at the Brentford away game on the 1st of January, which was genuinely the worst game I've ever seen in my life. And at the end of it, Frank walked over to the away end, and as soon as Frank appeared through the mass of players and staff and subs and everyone and walked straight over to the away end, he got absolutely hammered with booing. That happened again when they lost at Bournemouth 3-2 the following week. And then that happened again on Saturday after they lost to West Ham, where like whenever Frank emerged from the big like throng of people milling around on the pitch post-match, he got booed so hard. They sang "Sacked in the Morning" louder than I've ever heard them sing it. I think it's never been like that from a manager before. Wow. So yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
What if they lose? Because they play Borussia Dortmund on Tuesday.
Yeah.
If they lose, it's at home.
It is at home, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean,
are we at the stage now where we're waiting for the axe to drop?
I am slightly surprised that he's going to be manager for this game. Right. My expectation on Saturday evening after the West Ham game was he will probably not be the manager.
Right.
For the Dortmund game.
Well, because the meme is Dr. Tottenham will see you now. Yeah. For any struggling team, come and visit Dr. Tottenham and you'll walk away with points. I mean, that's pretty damning, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
although it is funny.
The thing is, it is so typical, right? Teams who are on a terrible run will play Tottenham, then suddenly they can win. Like Bournemouth have been on a horrific run, and then Bournemouth beat Spurs 3-2 the other week.
Yeah.
You know, West Ham have been on a terrible run. West Ham go to Tottenham, they win 2-1. And you know, this was a problem last year. Like last year, they lost at home to Ipswich Town. Yeah. They lost at home to Leicester City last year.
You know who they've got at the weekend?
Tottenham, I should know this. I'm going Burnley. I'm going to Burnley. I'm spending the whole day on the train.
It feels a lot like Dr. Tottenham is going up to Burnley to pay a visit to the Northwest.
I mean, will he be manager for that game? I don't know. I would probably be a bit surprised. But that is going to be a decisive game, and if his future has not already been decided by that point, he's really hanging by a thread, I think.
Well, we've got Seb Stafford-Bloor, who hopefully, fingers crossed, will be in London this week. He's going to the Spurs Borussia Dortmund game. He'll be on the podcast on Wednesday.
I'm going to be sat next to him tomorrow night.
Will you?
Yeah, can't wait.
Oh, fingers crossed. There you go. We've got him on the show. So if anything does happen with Spurs this week, we'll get that from Seb. One more thing to say about them before we move on. Amongst all the drama, of course, Conor Gallagher made his Tottenham Hotspur debut against West Ham United. Obviously didn't make the impact that he would have wanted to make, but still, a great player. I've got some Spurs fan friends, and some of them feel a little mixed about this. No one's unhappy that Conor Gallagher has arrived, but some of them feel as though he's not exactly the player that maybe the team needs. What's your position?
I think he massively improves them because they really struggled in midfield recently. They have lots of injuries. Gallagher is experienced and does a lot of. He's very busy, energetic, does a lot of running around. I think they need him. They also need someone who can pass the ball forwards, which they don't have. But, Madison hasn't played this season. He's been injured. Kulusevski hasn't played this season. He's been injured. Take those two out, and all you've really got in that midfield is like running around and tackling. Yeah. And Gallagher is better at that than the other guys they've already got. But that is ultimately what he is.
He's also a bit better driving forward.
He's good at that. And so he's an improvement at their driving forward and running around midfielders. But I also think they need someone who can pass the ball. Like they need Madison to not have an ACL injury. They need Kulusevski to not have a knee injury. That's what they really need.
Yeah. Okay, well, there was another surprising result that happened. There's a few of them that actually happened at the weekend. But this one, Aston Villa, who were on a bit of a title charge at the moment, and of course played after Manchester City had already dropped points. It felt as though if there was going to be a challenger to Arsenal, it would be Aston Villa. But they stumbled at home, where they've had an incredible record of late, to Everton on Sunday. French striker Thierry Barry scored the only goal of the game with the sort of finish that wouldn't look out of place at the Ryder Cup, right, Steve? Because it was a chip. Yeah?
Yeah, like a little scoop.
Sort of out of a kind of bunker, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've recovered from a bad initial shot.
It was actually a terrific goal, wasn't it?
I turned this game off at half-time.
Did you?
It was so boring.
It was quite boring. I felt a little bit bad was it Jake O'Brien who scored the header that was deemed offside? Yeah. I did not understand that at all. Very strange decision.
Full abolition now.
Yeah.
Full abolition now.
How about that? Anyway, it means that Everton are just 3 points off Manchester United, who were in 5th, 4 points behind Liverpool in 4th. Very exciting for them. Well done. And their fine away form continues. Since Moyes' return last January, no side, get this, JJ, no side has won more matches on the road in the Premier League than David Moyes' Everton. So, does Europe beckon for David Moyes' men, right, Steve?
I mean, if they win,
he's looking
more
expectantly.
games.
I don't know if you know this, but Steve's dad is an Everton fan, so he's got this big soft spot for them.
Why isn't Steve an Everton fan then?
Because he's a glory hunter.
Yeah.
He's just picked the wrong team.
Correct.
But they were so bad in the 90s. So bad.
That's true.
The thing with the Premier League is that there are lots and lots of teams who are all really good. Like, all the teams are of a good level.
Yeah.
It's why, I mean, I've been saying it for ages. Like, so many games are just like mashing in the middle of the pitch. Just nothing happens.
Yeah.
Everton are one of them. If they get a couple of results go their way, yes, they can finish in Europe. It doesn't mean they're doing well or badly. They're all the same.
Everton fans are going to love this analysis.
I mean, I like David Moyes, and I think David Moyes is exactly what you should do with Everton.
Talk about your country, a fellow countryman.
Yes.
What about him? He's got a good Scottish way about him.
Absolutely.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, well, maybe after the World Cup, he could come in and take over from Steve Clarke, our hero,
Yeah?
our Lord and Saviour.
That would be. Don't you think that would be fitting?
Yeah.
If David
Scotland
Moyes
to
became the Scotland boss.
Euro's glory.
It'd be right for us to win that, I think. David Moyes could probably do that.
He'd be the perfect tournament boss.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
he'd be
think,
so
he
good.
would. I think he would.
You get the right players, right positions, make it hard to break down.
Yeah.
If you've got good wingers, they can do things. Moyes just puts, like, when he's got good players, he puts them in the right positions. He doesn't mess about. He puts in characters. He puts in hard workers. Just does the very
He seems to have
things you should do.
He seems to have a really good instinctive understanding of like the balance required, on the of a team on the pitch. Like, you know, you got to have a bit of physicality. You got to have a bit of pace. You got to have a bit of organisation.
Well,
You've got to get it all. You've got to know what ingredients in the cake you need more of, or what you need less
I think
of.
fundamentally, any like good football team will have people who are fast, people who work hard, and people who are strong. So that's just like very basic. Like everyone, that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You get loads of technical players in there. They could pass away around some people if they're geniuses, but if you've got big lads who are strong and fast, you're going to be a lot better off. But when he has good players, he gets them in the right positions.
Yeah.
What I think Moyes probably actually excels at is like man management, like knowing people.
Yeah.
In the same way that like I've been reading a lot about Real Madrid recently, and so like Ancelotti, a lot of the praise goes to him about how he used to manage up, and so how he used to manage like Perez above him and whoever else is there, and also manage the players. And he'd ask the players what they think they should do, and then he works out what makes them happy and how to get them in the right positions, which also ties in with what everyone else around him. Just managing people. And I think Moyes is a certain kind of manager who identifies what kind of characters you need in the team. And the players he gets, they're players who are always heroes for years. Like Tim Cahill's a good example, just like a battler. The kind of guy who like he'll get his head panned in by someone and he'll be up again, bandaged, going around like making stuff happen, because you need those kinds of players.
Yeah.
But then when you go to the elite level, does it change? Do you need something different
I wonder
there?
if it does. I think that
Like the
there's
upper
been,
elite,
like,
I mean, obviously, like
Yeah.
Real Madrid, Man United, stuff like that.
No, that makes sense. I think that there's been a sort of not intentional, but a bit of an effort in the last few years to paint David Moyes as though he's like a Sam Allardyce type of manager, like he's all low block and defense, which I just don't think is true. And so I'm very pleased that. Everton
Also,
are
I think
getting
like
some
the worst West Ham do, and they will probably go down this year. Maybe they will scrape it and stay up, but like the chances are they'll go down. The fact is, it's only a few years ago, he got West Ham to finish 6th, he got them to finish 7th the next year, and then he got them to win a European trophy. They won the Europa Conference League. And it's not like he's had tons of money to spend in that time. Like he had to develop players, he had to know where to go in the market. Like West Ham have historically not been very good at recruitment.
If he hadn't gone to Man United and that hadn't happened, do you think we'd be looking at his career very differently?
Probably, yeah. I think this almost ties back to what we were talking about earlier on in the difference between system and individuals. I think Moyes' teams always platform individuals. He makes the structure very when I say basic, I don't mean it as a detriment. I mean like it's a very simple things, but the right characters in, you have the structure there, you're solid, you're hard to break down. Individuals can flourish within that. Oftentimes they end up like 1v1 with players and it doesn't look very good. And if those players don't perform, you don't get the results. But by giving players freedom, you then create the sort of improvised, not chaos, but improvised moments that mean you can sometimes get a win. And because you've got big lads, you can take advantage of things like set pieces and crosses and doing the very basics, getting in there. And so when you go to different teams with loads of individuals without that structure, that doesn't maybe work. And that's where maybe a system comes into place. You need to make them work. But if you had, I'd like to see him with loads of individual. And what would he do if he went to a big, massive team again? I don't know. Would he do anything different? Probably not.
I think he could go to Villa. He'd be good at Villa.
I think I'd like to think that he's in a job at Everton where they've got the new stadium now, they've got a degree of stability. They've got a change of ownership, an ownership who want to look upwards. And I hope that he gets a bit more money to spend and can hopefully start adding a bit of extra quality, adding some extra layers. Because even with West Ham, like, remember he kind of came in the first time to stabilise them and keep them up, I think, after they sacked Bilic. And then West Ham were like, oh no, we're
too good.
We're too good for this. We want to play an exciting brand of football.
Yeah.
We'll get Manuel Pellegrini in.
He was a bit of a laughing stock. Well, not a laughing stock, but his stock was low at the time, wasn't it? Because he hadn't done particularly well.
Right?
So he took Sunderland down and having kind of not done well at Real Sociedad, and there was a lot of negativity towards that.
Exactly, yeah. So he had to rebuild his standing. And then West Ham thought, no, we're too good for this. And then when they came back to him the second time, actually he saved them again. And then he was able to build a team which got gradually really, really good. And obviously, like, it really helped that Declan Rice was on his way to being a world-class player at that point. But it's not like the other individuals they had were like amazing individuals. Souček, Antonio,
Cresswell,
like good players, but not superstars. And so I just wonder whether if he gets that stability at Everton, he can start adding a bit more quality. I mean, to be honest, Grealish is probably is already such a good player that if they can keep and develop and grow him, and then maybe add a little bit of, and Ndiaye, obviously an amazing player as well. If they can maybe add like a little bit more extra quality, maybe get like a really good number 9 in, then there might be the scope to sort of like start building in a sort of West Ham-y type way towards being a team who can get to 60 points.
But in the immediate term, to answer the original question of does Europe?
Oh yeah, I didn't answer the original question at all.
How dare you, JPB?
They are 10th with a -1 goal difference, and looking at the table, I reckon they'll finish 9th, which is probably not enough, is it?
No, but it is enough for John McKenzie to have to buy me a lunch.
Yeah.
So in terms of the wager lunch train, if he buys me a lunch, but I have to buy my other friend a lunch, then I'm just going to get John to buy my friend a lunch, and then I'm all
you don't have to go out.
So come on, Everton. Come on, West Ham. Ideal world, I get a couple of lunches, and I will be king of Da Castle. Now, I think we have to go and play Points Are Bad, don't we, Steve? Because we've run out of time.
Basically got like 10 minutes to do Points Are Bad and the intro.
Great. Okay, well, let's do that now. We'll play Points Are Bad. Here we go. Now, you'll recall, gang, last week that the two fixtures we chose were Chelsea versus Arsenal, which was, of course, 2-3. Fascinating game. That was the semi-final.
That was fun, yeah.
And then Manchester United versus Man City, which was a 2-0-er. So, let's see who did well this week. Now, I can tell you, nobody did well. Everyone added a lot of points. Weirdly, John and Reuben had the worst performance with 8.
I was in the lead, wasn't I, as well, before that week?
What did you pick? You mean before the week? Yes, I recall that.
Before that game week, I was top of the table, or bottom, as it were.
Well, you thought Arsenal were going to... You were played by Luke
I've been
last
Boshered.
week. You've been Boshered, that's right.
Yeah.
He predicted 2-0 to Arsenal, which I think was actually a very reasonable prediction. And he predicted 3-0 to Manchester City, which, again, we thought maybe would be a reasonable prediction before the game. Turned out not to be. JJ, you and I, and Kaya all added 7. So really all around there in the same sort of area. You thought Arsenal would win 1-0. Again, I think a very sage choice. You also thought that Manchester City would win 2-1. Again, I think that should have happened and didn't. But, who the fuck knows? So there we go. The 1-1 Bart finishing first with 6 points added. That means the total overall now, JJ, you're having to work. You're gonna have to work quite hard to get back into it. You are still in last place.
Am I though?
On 102 points. I'm second to last on 87. So there's a 15-point gap there, pretty big one. Kaya on 81, so that he's sort of growing ahead of me. John on 80. Reuben, you're on 79. So you're
still top.
You're still top. Congratulations.
Lovely.
Now today, JPB, you'll be playing as John, please.
Okay, I can do that.
So when we come round to you, if you can do it
think what John would think.
And say it in the way John would say it.
Be
as well.
in John's mind.
Yeah.
So non-committal, predictions are a mugs game, and everything. The big question is
why do I have to do this? We'd ask him to come in and kneel down, but he's injured himself and he's not even here, is he? Ikaya's not here either, is he? No, Steve. So
I don't know. We're a bit tight for time.
You'll play as Kaya today. Okay, fantastic. Now, Reuben, since you're here, even though technically it would be John, Oh, no, you're John.
I'm John.
You're picking the 2 games that we will be predicting for in today's game. So why don't you have yourself a little look at the Premier League
Premier
weekend?
League games for this week, coming weekend.
Yeah, and then pick the 2 that you think would be most interesting to predict for. I think Spurs Burnley would be a good one, personally, but you pick whatever you would like.
I'm going to pick Arsenal Manchester United,
Yes.
and I'm going to pick Manchester City against Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Okay, yeah. Oh, do you know what? That's good. That's good. Okay, fine. Right. And you also get to predict first on behalf of John. So for Arsenal, Manchester United, what do you think the result is going to be?
2-1.
To Arsenal. Okay. And for Manchester City versus Wolves?
2-2.
Wow. I would absolutely love that. Also, either way, it's a win-win because it could be 2-2, in which case that'd be a fantastic game. Or John adds loads of points because he got JP Bede. There you go. Yeah. Okay, Ruben, over to you. Arsenal versus Manchester United.
Let's go 1-0 to the Arsenal.
Yeah, fair enough. A lot of scared people. No Man United predictions yet. And then Man City Wolves.
I would like to go 2-1 to Manchester City.
2-1. Okay, fair enough. JJ, it's you next.
Arsenal
Man United.
Man United is 0-0.
Yeah,
every day of the week.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
It was at the start of the season.
And Man City Wolves. Did you say 2-0? Someone said 2-0.
I said 2-1 and Jack said 2-2.
Oh, I will have 2-0.
2-0 to Man City.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right. Then we've got is it Kaya next? No, it's me next, isn't it?
Yeah, because hang on. Based on this week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's me next. Okay. So Manchester United, Arsenal, I think that's 2-1 Man United. I think that's a 2-1 Man United victory right there. And then I will say for Manchester City, Wolves, I think 1-0 Manchester City. Now, Steve, I would like you to be guessing as Kaya, please. Arsenal versus Manchester United.
Basically the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stepping for Kaya here.
Yeah, right. Analogous. This is what I want to happen, not what I think will happen. Yeah. So 3-2 Arsenal, but I don't think there'll be that many goals at all.
He wants Arsenal to concede 2 goals.
No, I want the 1-0, which is what...
you eat pieces of shit for breakfast. Okay, and what about Man City Wolves?
Let's go for... I think that will be I don't know. All the scores have gone. It's hard at the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
1, Man City 1, Wolves 2.
Okay, wow. A 2-1 win to Wolves away.
And I'm going to apologise to Kai in advance here because I feel like I might have...
He's been hankied. There we go.
3-0 City was available, right?
I think
so. But I think... Well,
it's too late now because it's the end of the episode. Thanks, everybody. JJ, thanks.
Yes, okay.
Ruben, thanks.
Thank you.
JPB, thanks.
Thank you.
And Steve was here.
Thank God.
See you on Wednesday. Bye. Yeah?
Potentially Thursday,
Actually,
recording in the afternoon.
Thursday. Bye.